Welcome. Thanks for being here. We'll be getting started soon. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from today. We are so grateful you're joining us today for Learn to Draw and Paint Mushrooms with John Muir Laws. My name is Beth Kelly Galogly, and I am the founding director of Wild Wonder Foundation, which is hosting this class today. We are dedicated to encouraging nature, connection, and conservation through attention, curiosity, art, science, and community. You can learn more about our work at wildwonder.org. We really appreciate John Muir Laws, today's teacher, who is an award-winning author, writer, illustrator, and educator with nearly 4 decades of teaching experience. Jack is the co-founder and president of Wild Wonder Foundation, and he is donating his time today to teach this class. And all funds raised are to benefit Wild Wonder Foundation. So thank you for being here and for your support and for helping us share the joy of nature journaling with others through your generosity. A few notes before we begin. I want to give a special shout out and a big thank you to Brooke Morales, who is helping backstage. Because this is a webinar, your camera and mic are disabled. This is a 2-hour-long class, and we will take a quick break after the first hour. Please use the Q&A feature to ask questions during the presentation, and we will get to as many of them as we can. We also want you to keep your eyes out, as we might have some sporadic mushroom puns during class. Please share your class notes and drawings on social media using hashtag Wild Wonder Foundation and tag us at Wild Wonder Foundation. I now will hand it over to you, Jack.
And thank you, Beth. And hold on.
Get you spotlighted. Yeah.
Hi. Hey, thank you so much for helping wrangle all this. Also want to send a shout out to both you and love the hat. Absolutely love the hat. And also want to thank both you and Brooke for helping me behind the scenes. This is going to be a lot of fun. And in preparation for this, I had a ton of fun. I thought I know what I was going to do because I'd taught some classes before on drawing mushrooms. And so I kind of went through those notes and was like, okay, I can just sort of recycle that. And then I thought, wait, there's a better. So I've got these brand new ideas on how to sketch mushrooms, and I've been playing with it, and I think it's going to be a ton of fun.
Thank you so much, Jack, for raising the bar on mushrooms. I wish I had a mushroom pun handy. So you found that when you looked at your old classes, you found that there was mushroom for improvement. Is that what you're saying?
I see what you did there. And
all right.
So now with these techniques under your belt, you'll be a champion.
Nice.
That's right.
All right, take it away.
All right, thank you so much. All right, folks, here we go. I am going to make my screen big. Boom, I'm big. Hi, this is Big Me. And I want to share with you a bunch of strategies for drawing mushrooms, because guess what? It's mushroom drawing time. With here in California, we've gotten a few rains, and boop, 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 mushrooms are popping up everywhere. As a matter of fact, I went out last night with a friend of mine with flashlights, and we were going around in all of these lots and under urban trees, skulking around, and we found tons of mushrooms. And so I'm going to be using those as some of my models today. It's mushroom time. And if you're lucky to live in a place with sort of regular rains, then mushrooms are an all the time thing. For me here, it's a real seasonal thing. So I can't wait to explore these with you. And I think the mushrooms are fun because it is with anything, we can use our kind of drawing on the right side of the brain techniques. I'm looking at negative space and sort of and these are sort of classic strategies for drawing things. But when you're drawing mushrooms, understanding the structure and form of what is there, it's really, really helpful. And the foreshortening on some of these forms is a little bit counterintuitive. In addition to that, um, I forgot what I was going to say. So in addition to that, there's something else that's really important that had me that excited. So let's just dive into it, and we're going to get to all those things. And you are, I think you're going to, by the end of this, you're going to see that, and camera. There we go. Hi. All right, so here we are, and we're gonna have a ball with this. Again, I want to thank Wild Wonder Foundation for helping share this event with everybody. And here we go. We're going to start by looking at a little bit of the life story of the little mushroom. So when you see mushrooms around, I generally don't pick flowers anymore because that makes them sad. With mushrooms, it's like picking an apple on a tree. Underneath the ground is this giant net of mycelium, so little white fibers that are the body of the fungus. The largest fungus in the world is this giant thing that's it's more than like 3 square miles of this interconnected fungus net up in Oregon. But you don't see most of it. But every once in a while, that fungus net, whoop, whoop, pops up little fruiting bodies, and those shed spores, and you get more mushrooms going on. So think of them kind of like an apple on a tree. If we look at the development of those little fruiting bodies underground, some of them look like this. Document camera with. There we are. Some of them look like this. All right, this is, oh, that's me. Oh, we're back. I haven't figured out why my camera likes to do that. But so this is what's called a mushroom button. And I found this underground. And with my flashlight, it was fun. You should have been there. Let's open it up. Ah! There we go. Let's open that up. It's my collection of mushrooms for the day. If I kind of get in here. There we go.
So creamy white.
So creamy white. And so some people kind of get into trouble with these because they know that there are these things called puffballs, and a bunch of puffballs are edible. And so they will see this little white nugget out there and they'll say like, oh, it's a puffball. And I read somewhere that I could eat those. By the way, don't eat mushrooms unless you are really you kind of get your mycology down, and you've learned from your local mycological society who's who. There's that again. Come on back. Oh, you're back. So some sort of sketchy wiring in a cable somewhere. But if you take a look really carefully here, you can see a strange little marking over here and a little marking over there. See those? No. I just need to make that sound and it comes back. All right, so look at this. That is the ghost of a baby mushroom inside this white blob. This is a mushroom button. It's not a puffball. And you can actually see the ghost of the developing mushroom right there. So those are gills on one side. You see that little yellow layer there? That is the yellow cap of a mushroom, like that. Oh, we're frozen. Oh dear, I did not want technical difficulties. Come on. Maybe need to make the noise.
We can still hear you, Jack.
All right. So yeah, it was something like this. Did you see the yellow on this guy? See the little yellow rim?
Yes,
That's
we can see that. Someone asked if a mushroom button is a truffle. Are they the same thing?
I think that I don't think that the truffles sprout. I think you can have mushroom buttons without being truffles. So I think that the truffles stay as an underground thing and don't do that whoop If there's a mycologist on the team here who can help us out with that, let us know. But I think that a truffle would be a sort of a non-fruiting version with this. So I have truffle with that question.
Groaning.
Let's go over to
In this class, we're going to be more or less learning about mushrooms. That's
oh
from the chat. That's from the
no
Q&A.
chat
Thanks to Casey for that one.
mm-hmm. So let's take a look at that. So what you've got is this thing is growing. Um, is a little mushroom tucked up inside that little ball. There's not mushroom in there, but there's it's packed in there, and there is this layer of tissue. Ah, hold on a second. I'm seeing a weird thing on my screen. Zoom. There is next. So there we go. There's this layer of tissue around it, and as this little mushroom starts to grow, it pushes, and it breaks through the this layer. And what you can get is if you started with this thing called a universal veil all the way around your little proto mushroom friend, then part of that is still there as the bottom of the mushroom in this little cup. And parts of it can be stuck as little hats. The little white spots on Beth's hat are little remnants of that universal veil. And so when you look at a mushroom that has these parts on it, what you're seeing is kind of little hints of the past, of its development. In addition to that, below the bed of gills, and I'll show you what the gills are. So the gills on this little mushroom, that's let's see. There you are. This sort of part in here, those little things, did that turn red on your screen?
Yes, it went away though.
Yeah, for some reason this is not working the way that it normally does. Well, actually, let me see if huh. um,
There, I see it.
there we go. That's better. All right, so this whole area in here, those are your gills, and we'll kind of get more into those. But on this cross section, this is your gill area in here. All right. That's what we saw on that little button. Those are your gills in there. And there on some mushrooms, there is a little layer that is protecting those developing gills as it's there underground. So by the way, not all mushrooms have this universal veil. Not all mushrooms will have this little protective layer, but check this out. I want you so we see which parts became the universal veil. What parts on this mushroom do you think come from this little protective skin underneath the mushrooms? As the mushroom grows, we see little bits that were the universal veil. What parts are from this little this little purple protective layer? Make your call. And if you said this, you'd be right. Right. So that little protective layer, and these things all get names. So the universal veil is still the universal veil. Sometimes when you get little nuggets up on top, if they're little tiny pieces, then we call those warts. And by the way, mushrooms don't give you warts. The vulva is the name for the part of that universal veil that's stuck on the bottom. And the cortina is then the part that becomes the skirt or the ring. So not all mushrooms have a cortina, so not all mushrooms have the ring or the skirt, also called an annulus. Actually, all the different parts of the mushroom, mycologists give them names. So if we want to start kind of upping our skill level, it's useful to just to whoops, to learn these names. These are the technical terms for. So rather than kind of refer to them like this, we can use these formal terms. Of course, the gills are the gills. The cap is the cap. If you want to really sound like a mycologist, you can call that a pileus. You can call a stalk, the stalk part, you can call that a stipe. But if you call it a stalk, nobody's going to look askance at you, right? Some mycologists I've heard get bent out of shape if people call it a stem. Because they go like, that's for the plants, it's not for fungus. But you call it a stalk, they'll be okay with that. You call it a stipe, they'll be like, oh, you're one of us. And so those are just some of our terms. And I really like thinking of the relationship of these to what was going on underneath the ground. So let's just take a little kind of growing mushroom and see if or some mushrooms and see if we can spot these parts. We'll go over to the document camera and I'll show you some of my little friends who came out and played with me last night. Again, this is so much fun. Look in the button and I hold it like that. You can see the ghost of the gills right there. So this part is going to burst out. If you look carefully, when we remove this dirt, there is this universal veil part down here, and that is all part of the cap, the pileus, with all of the warts, little nuggets of universal veil kind of tagged onto it. But we can also look at something like this. All right, so here is, there's of course our cap. Here is our stalk. And look at this lovely little skirt. And you can find little tiny fragments, like right there. See that little piece of tissue hanging right there, kind of soft and floppy? Right, that used to be attached onto this. So this one had one of those little skirts. Something that mycologists often do is they will look at the color of the spores that come down. So you can make spore prints. But one way of finding that out in the field is look at this. This mushroom spores have fallen out of these gills here. So those gills support the spores. And a bunch of them have fallen down onto the top of the little skirt right there. So you're like, oh, look, I see all those spores down there. Must have some brown spores. That's fun. So also thinking it might be fun for us to take this and just cut this open, see what we see. So we can see this cap here. We see the universal veil here. We are going to get just sort of an introduction to the anatomy of this. Might as well, if Ray Bonto over in the UK is watching this, I know he's already sketching it. And so what I will often do is just sort of start with a loose drawing that says I've roughly got something about this big. And this much of it is going to be my little cap. And then I see there's something going on here. There's something going on here. And I'm going to get a darker pencil. On this, as I get to the edges here, I'm going to pay kind of close attention. I'm looking at this one sort of really in side view. So I kind of come up here, I'm going to give this line a little suggestion of bumps. And then suggest that those little things kind of come out like that. There's some sort of membrane hanging down in here. It's fun to draw things in, kind of here is how I see it in the field, and then right next to that, put a cross section of these. And this part here is all covered with dirt. Oh, there's a little patch of not dirt in there. And then I've got some dirt in here. And I've got a few little nuggets of dirt up here. Put some on the top. But I'm really excited to see what's happening on the inside of this. Oh, that's interesting. Look at this. From this view, this side is red. This side, well, this side has more of the veil remnants on it. So yeah, I'm going to cut it this way so I get both of those halves.
Excuse me, Jack. Do you know
Yeah,
the name of this particular mushroom?
this is fly agaric, or Amanita pantherina, and it is a poisonous mushroom. It's the one that will look like this. You don't have to worry about sort of handling mushrooms like this, but you definitely don't want to eat them. So here in cross section, I can see here are the gills in side view, right there and there. I can see what appears to be, could this be part of the tissue that's going to be the skirt? That's really interesting. I think it's also kind of cool that in the color of this, you've got the red layer, then a yellow layer inside of that. So if I were to draw that, I would start with something like that. I've got something in here. I've got a zone where I see my gills, and I see the gills on the other side. And I can sort of see a papery little appearance going on in there. There's some sort of a hollow break in here. And I know when I make little marks like that, it doesn't at all look like a hollow break, does it? It looks like a green pencil section. So I'm going to draw a little squiggly line out from that and say a hollow space. So anytime my drawing doesn't look like what I'm trying to show, I just correct that with a little bit of writing. And I want to do a enlargement of this part here. So I'm going to draw a little box popping up that is showing that there's an area here with some white globs on it. My warts. And then I have my sort of magnified view of the skin. The top part is red. The bottom part is yellow. Dark red. And there's some dirt on the outside. Doesn't have to be pretty, but I do want, just sort of making labeled diagrams of whatever I see. Here, not even using color, I can get a lot of information. White. And it's starting to tint a little bit brown as I'm sitting here. And after, maybe it's been 5 minutes. Interesting. So there I have my a few parts of my mushroom. Oh, there is one other thing which we should out. I don't really see it on those live ones. Okay, so let's move along. So here are some early sketches and some later sketches of these are different kinds of amanitas. You can see all those parts on them. And you can also get a sense that having an idea that these are important structural features helps me look for them and be able to draw them on whatever I'm seeing. On this one here, you can see those little shattered those shards of the thing that normally is on the skirt, but stayed attached to the rim of this little mushroom. So whatever I see on the mushroom, that's what I draw. And I don't try to turn it into some sort of perfect cleaned up version like, oh, I'll just take these little dirty bits off. No, because those are, they're telling a story. They're telling the story part of what this mushroom did. Let's look at how we can go about drawing this classic mushroom view, right? And there's several ways of drawing things. One, you can draw the mushroom straight from the side like this. When you're walking around in the field, you're usually going to see them like this, where you're not seeing the underside. But the view that kind of gives you the most information is kind of like this, where you see some of the cap, some of the structure of what is happening underneath it. And so we see the cap, the gills, and here. So this is what we normally see. This, I think, is probably the most informative view. This side view one, that's okay, but I really like kind of getting this 3/4 view. And so I want to encourage people to we're going to be showing you some techniques to kind of help you get that view there. Well, actually, before we go on, I do want to point out this other mushroom that I found. A little slippery jack here. This mushroom, instead of having gills, it has pores, like a sponge, all over the underside. Again, this is where the spores are made. And in this, there's little tubes. Let's just do a cross section of this one. I think you'll find this one really interesting.
Can you say again the name of that one?
I think this is the slippery jack. Any mycologists out there?
We do have a few folks who are helping ID things in the chat. So
All right.
slippery jack, we think. All
right. So if you look here, there are these vertical tubes. And then on the surface, actually, we can even get this focused down. Oh no. Maybe I have to make noise. Ah. Are you going to let me? No. When I try to zoom down, it goes to the jack cam again. But it seems to be working. So look, here's sort of the flesh of my mushroom. Here are those tubes coming down. That's really interesting. So that's why this bottom view tells you a lot about what mushroom you're looking at. Do you have something with pores or not? If you do have something with pores, then the top view doesn't really give you a ton of information. And so let's now go to looking at how can I construct a view of this mushroom to help me kind of be able to draw this, be able to draw this stuff that I see, get my important features in, and and have that work for me. When I am there's some weird geometry and some weird angles in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of build up the Platonic model of the mushroom, and then what sort of the generic idealized mushroom form. And this is something that will help us visualize if we're looking at it as a top view or getting underneath the mushroom and looking up underneath it. And sort of the slug's eye view of the mushroom. And and then what we can do is on top of that scaffolding, we can put all the nuances and features like this gill is bent over here. But if it's on a structure that helps us be able to understand the geometry of what we see, this is going to be really helpful. So let's now, this was, I just wanted to say, here's some more, these are Cortinarius, the genus, these little mushrooms. That little membrane is much more durable in this genus. And so if you flip over one of these mushrooms, you're looking down at that big membrane instead of looking at the gill bed underneath. On the big nugget there, you can see those little gills on the inside there. And again, those are our parts. That little cortina is that part we just saw on the Cortinarius genus. So Cortinarius, that's a genus that's named because it's got a really kind of overzealous cortina. Now, let's draw our mushroom. And actually, I'm going to show you stuff on the screen, and I am also going to draw along with you. So I'm going to ask you folks just to move to the side for a moment.
And which mushroom are you going to draw right now? The name of the one you're going to draw?
This will be Bob. Yeah, this will be Bob. And the reason that it's Bob is just because this will be a generic, non-specific Platonic. No, this will be Plato. This is Plato, the mushroom, because it's just the idealized mushroom. I'm going to start with an oval. And then I am going to find the middle of that oval. And I do that by just drawing crosshairs to the bottom. Keep this part light. Keep it really, really light. So I get my crosshairs across there. Now, if you have a hard time one line kind of drawing an oval, I do too. That's why I kind of do several, and as I kind of work over those, my lines eventually get into better positioning. So I've now found the center of my oval. Let's find that's where the stalk is going to come out. So imagine a version of this larger oval just made smaller. So you just make a smaller version of that. Now it's going to go there in the middle. Oh, just a word on drawing ovals. Try to avoid this. Right? See that? Oh, this has sharp points on the end. Round your edges, but don't do this. So in between this mistake and this mistake, I want to kind of bring it towards the point, but then I want to round the corner, kind of come around. All right? That is going to help me get my little oval. Let's put a hat on it. And out of that oval, let's drop down a little stalk. Now, this platonic ideal of the mushroom can be used to help you visualize the top view or the bottom view of the mushroom. Let's start with the easiest one. Once you're down here drawing gills, that can put a lot of people into a panic. So we're going to start with this view where we're just looking at the top and we're not seeing that. But let's think for a moment about how that's going to look. All right, let's go back one. So I can have this be the underside view, or I can have this be the top view. So on my mushroom here, if I want this to be the top view, then these lines in here, I'm essentially forgetting about those. Pay no attention to the to all those details in the middle. If you want to, you can kind of get in there and lighten them by erasing. But if you drew them lightly to begin with, that probably isn't even necessary. Because what you've got is the top part, and then here's the side that is coming towards me. All that stuff on the inside, I don't see, and I just see from this much of the stalk coming down. That's what I get. Okay. But if I want to start putting features and elements on the top of this, understanding the geometry of what this curved surface does is really helpful. So let's go there now. Let's look at the geometry of that top surface. The first and most useful reference line is this sort of center line of my mushroom. If I'm a water drop and I landed here, I would slide right like that because that is down. So if there was a water drop here, it would roll down my mushroom. So I start with that line. The top of the mushroom will be somewhere on this line up here. It's not going to be all the way here. This is a little bit counterintuitive because we're thinking here's the top of the mushroom. But I'm actually seeing the top of the mushroom because let's just take this here. If I'm looking at here, notice that let's go for something that's a little bit more rounded. That view will work, right? So if this is the top of my mushroom, notice at the 3/4 view, the top is down a little bit from the edge. If I look at it in a full side view, yes, but as I rotate it towards me, the top is now tilted down towards me. Oh. So that means my top is going to be somewhere here. And from that point, if I am coming down the edge of this from that top point in this direction, oops, in this direction, I'm going to be following a path down like this. So if I were to put crosshairs across this, they're coming across here. And what that is doing is it is coming down to a point here. So not here. It's coming down to a point at the sides. So from the top down to there, from the top down to there. And if there's a water drop that landed here and wants to go somewhere in this direction, it's going to be following a line that is somewhere between straight coming towards me, and this side view. So we can draw in some of these. Notice that the closer you are to the center line, the more you kind of come down straight. The further you are from that, the more you kind of curve over. So I'm just sort of eyeballing in what might be some intermediates between these. And on the far side, you imagine one of these lines kind of continuing across. It's going to first go straight, and then it's going to start to drop over and curve off the other side. This top half up here is, I think, the most confusing part. What these lines are doing is they're coming up and then they're beginning to curve as they kind of they go straight, and then they curve more as they'll do much more of a curve as they reach that edge. You go straight towards it, and then at the end, you just do a little bit of, so out here, I'm going to go straight, and then towards the end, I'm going to start to curve. So they're going to have initial straight part, and then they'll curve. So that allows me to visualize kind of what marks that are on this little mushroom. If you notice on this one, the gill bed doesn't stick down below the mushroom. I don't see the gills down here. But on some mushrooms, you will. So on some of the fungi that we're looking at, from this top view, you will see a little bit of the gills on the underside. You're going to see most of that towards the middle part, and less as you get up towards the sides. And depending on how far down it sticks, look at this, right? So I'm going to have a little bit of my gill bed. If I see it, not always there, sticking out the bottom of my mushroom. So what are these gills doing? So drawing those gills in. The one in the middle is going to be coming straight towards me. So let's take a look at this one here. The one in the middle is coming straight down. But ones off on the side, they're curving. And notice that over here, it's hard to see what the gills are doing. Straight down, getting more curvy, hard to see what those gills are doing. I turn it at a different angle, so I can see a little bit more there. Here I'm coming straight down, here more curvy, and out here, look how easy it is to see that here. Here, what's going on is, imagine that you are driving down a street, and up ahead is an alley. You can't see down that alley because it's down the block. But the minute you come up to it, you can look down that alley. Whoop, you see all the way down there. Turn this way so you're the alley. All right, come over here and go, hi. All right, I can see you. Now I drive on. All right, I can now no longer see as far down that alley. What's going on with mushrooms is you are in the middle, you're looking down the alley. And notice how, as I turn this, you see down different alleys. You're still sort of, I want to hold it, there we go. So you're seeing in the middle part down all those alleys, and on the sides, you can't see down the alley. So that means in the center, you're going to have downward facing gills. The distinctions, the spaces between them are bigger because you're not seeing that alley at a foreshortened angle. Out here on the sides, they're getting closer together. In the middle, they're more widely spaced with dark centers. You're drawing with a pencil or a pen. So if you draw the gill as a line down, you've just made a black mark where there's a dark mark. So what you want to do is you're going to be, as you're drawing your gills, especially in the center, don't think of drawing the gills. Think of drawing the spaces between the gills. The spaces between the gills. Let's demonstrate this. All right. I'm going to first kind of, let's take a look at a diagram of how this might look with, all right, if I'm not really worrying about drawing the spaces between the gills. I'm just sort of saying like these ones in the center, they do come down more straight. As you get towards the sides, we see more of a curve in them. Right? But if I draw it like this, then several things. One, I have this big dark mass of gills. And the gills are light. So, we don't like that. So what are we going to do? We are going to, in the center, I'm going to put some bigger dark spaces in. They're going to start to curve as I go out, and then they're going to get lighter and lighter and more indistinct. And if I can see them, maybe they're even more close together. But this really helps me be able to draw those. So let's just play with that. I might have here in the center, here is a big space between gills. Now this white space is actually my gill. I have a gill coming down like this, and I have a gill coming down there. There's my white gills. All right, so I'm then going to add in a few more gills. And I'm getting a little bit lighter as I'm wanting to zoom down, but I'm afraid that so as I go out to the sides, those lines are getting more pale. And I get that little bit of that illusion of the looking down the mushroom alley. Well, that's fun. So here are some sketches. Notice how you're looking down the mushroom alley. Isn't that cool? I'll show you a fun watercolor hack. So these are watercolor drawings. And especially that one over there on the right. Actually, let's see if there's just a few more. Nope. Go back to that for just a second. I want to show you a way that I came up of drawing this that made for where's there's my pencil. All right, so I want to show you if I have I'm gonna dare to zoom down one more time. Ah, you don't like that. What?
That's quite dark now, Jack.
Yeah, I see that. And it's also not turn off the camera, turn on the camera. Work with the connection, squawk at it. Squawk. It didn't work that time. And now I'm frozen. Now I'm back. Aw. Document camera is not really feeling its oats today. Poor little thing. Sometimes I can turn on a different program, and that sometimes stimulates the camera to kind of come back online.
Well,
No.
so far, Jack, we've had several people say that you're a real fun guy. So,
Aw.
yeah, technical difficulties. That's okay.
Oh,
Because
I
Barbara says
appreciate
she's
that.
liking this already.
Oh, see, there we go. There we go. Now we're on a roll. Um,
And Linda also wondered, how often you collect mushrooms because she said her mushroom collecting is a bit sporadic.
Um, I love you guys. And because of Linda's joke, it brought this back. See, Linda, you did this. This is you.
Way to go, Linda.
So thank you, Linda. So now so check this out. Let's say I've got a little zone here of gills, and I'm doing this with watercolor, right? So this, imagine this little section right here. What we're looking at might be here on our you're thinking like how do I do this with with some watercolor. Um, what I often do is actually I'm going to extend this a little bit more into here. Is I would start with just as I did before. I would draw some of those gills in, and I'm thinking when I'm drawing the line, I'm drawing the shadow, and then those shadows become less as I kind of come out this way. And then out here, maybe just a few lines to suggest that there's some kind of angle thing going on here, that the angle of these changes. And if it's a little bit inconsistent like this, where like, ooh, that one's darker, there's not a gradation to that, that's totally fine. It's okay. Let's get a few going out on this side. Right. Those are starting to look like gills coming towards me. Now, let's say these are brownish gills. I'm going to hit this with a little bit of watercolor and then show you a secret trick in my arsenal. Test some colors off on the side. Yeah, let's say that's good. Now I can get in here and try to draw all of these in. But it's hard, right? I'm getting a few of them. But I'm also losing some of those edges. And then out here, just put in a few light lines. But I have lost a little bit of the kind of the gilly look. Or maybe I just kind of come in here and say there they are. Oh darn it, where did my gills go? Well, I would like to say hello to my little friend. This little guy is the Signo Uniball Broad White Gel Pen. There are a bunch of different kinds of gel pens you'll see people using. I started off with the Jelly Roll. I like the Signo a little bit better. So these ones are easier to find. If you can find these ones, get yourself a Signo. Don't buy a whole bunch of gel pens at the same time because these tend to dry up faster than you can say mycelium. And that's just sad. You'll have all of these dead pens where you can see like, you've got this much pigment in you. Like, why won't anything come out? They just like to dry up really fast. So just sort of knowing that it's a bummer. But yeah, your gel pen will dry up while it still has ink in it, and you haven't drawn that many lines. But look at what it can do. I'm going to wait till this is dry. That's roughly dry. This, you get to be the sunlight on the edge of the um, on the edge of the gill. So those ones that are down the alley, there's no light really hitting those. So I'm just going to come here and I am going to lightly draw here. I'm going to lightly draw here. Ooh, these gills are coming back, right? I'm going to go more lightly out here. And now into this area where I totally covered it. Look at those gills happening. Now, remember, look, oh, here's a problem. I'm being really evenly spaced here. Remember, as they go out towards the sides, they should get closer together. They should get less in your face. So I'm going to get some closer together here. Whoa, crazy gill bed, right? If you want to, we can let this dry, and let's say they're not white. Let's say they're sort of yellowish. I can wait till this is totally dry. I'm going to get a little bit of yellowish paint, and I can tint them. Yellowish gills with dark spaces between them. Oh, that's so much fun. And if I kind of go like, I really don't like the way that I handled this gill bed, that what happened with my gel pen, I put too many kind of marks over in this area, like this area here, I don't like it because it's just too uniform and I want them closer together here. So I want this to stand out a little bit less. Gel pen is water soluble. So what I can do is I can come in here, give it a few strikes, and I just made it a little bit harder to see. If it's too in my face, I kind of hit those a couple of times and they become a little bit more pale. Look at all the gel pen that came off on the tip of my brush.
So if you
And
make like a mush take with your gel pen, you can easily fix it. Is that what you're saying?
oh, wow. Wow. Exactly. So
That's
if
from Janice. That's from Janice. Thank you, Janice.
that's right. So if you have truffle with that, then you're
Oh,
um thank you, Janice. Oh man. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Let's see now. So that's something I love doing with gills. So if we go back to these drawings of mushrooms, you'd be like, oh, I totally see what you're doing here with these. You can totally see the gel pen on the one on the right hand side. Those big gills in the center one also have a layer of gel pen on them that has been um, then tinted purple on that little bluet. That's my kind of side view or top view gill trick. It's really, really fun. But wait, there's more. Because let's take this same view that we have, and I'm going to recreate it.
so Jack, I just noticed it is 11 o'clock exactly. So I don't know if you want to take a pause now or if you want to finish this next thing you were going to share and then take a quick stretch mushroom stretching break.
I think that this might be a good time for us just to sort of shake out our shoulders. It's not good for us to sit there, right? We want to sort of regularly get up and go, whoop. I've got something that appears on my computer every 15 minutes and says, stand up, shake out your shoulders, do that. Let's do that now.
All right. It's time to shake out your spores. What does it look like?
Yeah, we actually have a comment here about we need to shake out our toadstools too.
Oh, 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 bring it, bring it. So yeah, I've got kind of,
And this class is being recorded, and you, if you signed up for it, you'll receive an email with that recording in about a week. And several people are saying, "I'm gonna need to watch this again later." Amanita.
oh, Amanita.
Just
Yeah, it's also
Uh,
a really good time right now for the folks who are getting up just to go forage for a snack.
oh, that's right.
Shake it out. Shake it out. Did you shake out all your spores, Jack?
Look at all those spores raining down.
Yeah. Shake it out.
Yeah.
Thanks for this class. It's been so inspirational already.
I can't keep up with y'all. This is making me really happy. You know, the more that we just try to find humor in the fabric of our life, the better off we are. It's I really want to encourage people to try to laugh more along with your life. We need that. We human beings tend to take ourselves really seriously, and we're just a comedy of errors. Um, we are absurd in our most serious moments, and having a sense of humor helps us negotiate that with a little more grace, and it's also more fun. I
It is
want to.
so much more fun. It's
It's
so
so much more fun.
it's so much more fun.
Yeah. Ready to start? Or are we
Sure.
still? All right. Here's what we've been doing. We've been looking at the mushroom this way. We're going to tilt it up and get under there. And if you look, that's where all the gills are. Now you may wonder, why are the gills on that side? There's just so much more room down there. And the so we are this angle is my favorite. This is really fun to draw mushrooms from this angle. So let's take a look at how we can go about that. Again, understanding a little bit of the geometry really makes a difference. So, here we go. Actually, let's go for document camera along with that. Let's redraw that. So you remember we had our oval.
Can you move your mouse, Jack? It looks like your mouse is right in the middle of our screen. There's a little arrow. Yep. Can you just stick it off to the side? Thank you.
Sweet. Right. Um, so we're going to get that our little oval. We can draw our crosshairs through it. Now, if you don't get it exactly precise, that's fine, because mushrooms can do just about whatever they want. This is a rough approximation to help you understand the structure of it, but you get some mushroom out there, it's going to be doing its own weird kind of lumpy crookedness. And so if these guidelines aren't, geometrically precise, no problem. All right, so I've got my stock here. When you're doing this, you're looking at, what are the dimensions? How wide is the stalk of this? How tall is the cap? So some mushrooms have tall caps, some mushrooms have low caps, some mushrooms have very low caps. Some mushrooms have a bump in the middle. Let's give this one a little bit of a bump in the middle. Why not? Then I want that bump to line up with that center line. All right. So that will help you be able to draw what you see. Some mushrooms have, look at how thin that stalk is. So there's not a generic proportion for these. You just want to look at the mushroom that is before you. Now, this time, we are ignoring those lines inside the stalk, because those are behind the stalk. But keeping track of where that center point is going to be very helpful, as you will see in just a moment. All right, remember, before we use those same lines to get this, it's just those same lines and There we are. Now, this is going to be fun. Um, the top of this mushroom is a little bit um, below the top, but it is also on the far side of the mushroom. Because we have tilted it up, right? If this, where my finger is, whoops, where my finger is, here's the top of the mushroom, right? As I tilt it up this way, the top, you can't see the top, but it's there on that center line outside of your point of view. Yeah, that's weird. What's that going to do to our kind of guidelines? Well, having a center guideline, that's still really helpful for me. What are the rest of the lines going to do? They're going to go from that center spot, right, up to the top edge of the mushroom, and then to continue to curve down onto the next side. What does that look like? So from a spot in here, I might be coming up, and I'm gonna, on the one that I've got here, I'm going to kind of give it a little extra bump as it comes across that bump there. But it is coming from up on the other side. Like that. So think like kind of a big spider. All right. So the other one will come from over there, and then it'll come around. So it might come from here up over. And it's just the part of this line that I don't see is the part that is on the other side of the mushroom. So these lines appear to be coming around the top of my mushroom. This is going to be really useful, these lines. One big reason is that, oh, sorry. Then let's also take a look at what's going on with the gills on the underside. Those gills are starting at the center of the mushroom. So the gills all point to the middle of this mushroom at that little X there. So this guideline here is already in the right place. This little line here is in the right place. If there's a line anywhere in here, I come along, just stop at some random point, which direction will this gill go? It'll go from that point straight to the center point there. If I want to, I can even continue that line out to the edge on the far side.
Excuse
So,
me, Jack. Are
yeah,
you drawing a particular mushroom or just
nope.
this theoretical?
This will be Socrates,
Got it. Thank you.
right? So these little gills want to come to that center point and then out to that edge. It's a little bit easier on the front edge, and it gets kind of brain scrambling on the back edge. What are these ones doing? What is this one doing here? It is coming here, and then it is only going to be, this little line is going to be sticking out behind that little edge there. So if I'm trying to think of where does any gill go, I want to imagine that center point and go, whoop, you're going to go towards that. So this gives me coordinates to figure out where my gills want to go. And, but again, this is not, if I just did it like that big diagram, then it looks like somebody put a wagon wheel on the underside of my mushroom. This is my visual guide. And now what I want to do is to start to draw in the gills. So using our gill trick again, remembering the alleys, I want darker alleys on the side coming straight down in the middle. So I'm going to start here. This is not a gill, it's an alley. Here's an alley. Here's an alley. And as I'm coming around with these, I want to be thinking about, look, this line is here. It's super easy to do this. Watch this. Imagine that this was the center of my mushroom. And I'm coming around here on the top. It is really easy for my brain to just start doing this. But I've got to get over to here, right? And then all of a sudden, like, oh no, then I'm here. And you get these funky zones. What I want to do is regularly throw in a gill here in some little intermediate position, and then kind of put things in between those. So if this wants to be there like that, okay, you want to be doing that. That's kind of tough for me. All right, what is this one going to do? It's going to come here, something like this. Now look at this. I don't have space now to put in a whole bunch of other gills here. I'm going to put in some partial gills that go in the right direction. And as we go further out with these, I'm going to get lighter, closer together, and start suggesting them. Not, and I'm stopping them when I get to the edge of that pile of gills. So I'm dropping more mushroom edges in. As I go out further, I am getting lighter. And what about the back side? Oh, actually, let's use this one. What about the back side? It's hard to see from this. Oh, you can see it a little bit there. Notice how back here in this area, I can see into some alleys, but over here, I can't see into the alleys very well. So as we are getting in this area behind the stalk here, remember having these guidelines in here is super, super helpful. In this area, I'm going to be seeing down some alleys. Look at the weird angle that those ones are coming in. These ones here, just pause and have a snack before you draw those ones. All right? Because if you've just been focusing on this, there's now mushroom in your tummy for some little biscuits and things. And then we're going to come out here. We're going to get lighter. But as I come in here, it is weird to draw this mushroom as a little line, this little gill here at that angle. So just knowing that that's tough, I just breathe, I have a snack. And then out in these spaces in between here, I can put a few little lines that just sort of suggest that there's gills out here. Maybe not the one that is right there, because then it looks a little bit, if I make that one really strong, right, it feels like, oh, there's, I didn't like that as much. I get some of those on the far side.
Question about these alleys. Is the line thicker or darker anywhere along that, or right under the cap or in the center? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would make it a little bit darker towards the edge, especially the edge that is closest to you. So if I really want to punch some of these alleys here, if I give myself a little bit more emphasis right in there as I'm starting to go down the alley, that's going to help. Now, how these end, you have to look at your mushroom. So look at this mushroom. There is a big gap right there. These gills don't hit the stalk. They stop in, there's maybe a 2 to 3 centimeter gap right in there. But what do these ones do? These ones come all the way down there. Like, oh, look at this membrane there. Look at this. Isn't that cool? In this little one here, the skirt has not yet detached from around here. So I look down underneath this amanita and you can see that. Oh, that is so cool. Wouldn't it be cool to cut this one in half? How would that look? That will be our treat at the end if we have time. All right. So I'm going to look down underneath my mushroom. If they come right to the edge, I'm going to do this side here where they're coming right to the edge. And then this side here there'll be a gap. It would be the same thing on your mushroom, but so they'd be the same on your mushroom, but I'm going to draw this one 2 different ways. So over here on this side, if this is my edge of my mushroom coming down, I have my gills here. I'm just going to do a few little kind of flicks away in the direction of those gills. And on some of these, I can even draw them as kind of, here's the bottom edge of that gill. So I can draw in the bottom edges of some of those. They'll come along a little line. But if there's a gap there, then what you're going to see is this little line is going to come out here. Your stem is going to stick down, and you'd have then a little gap there, your edge of your oval. And this is where you would have some gills. Your gills are going to kind of come into that edge. So take a look at those corners and see what they do on your real mushroom. All right. So here are some mushrooms with undersides. You can see I am the one on the top. You can see top left. You can see I'm using a gel pen up there in those gills that are really close to me. Less gill detail out on the sides. The ones that are on the right, I'm using less kind of gel pen. A little bit one on that gel pen on that center one. But not so much on the one that's on the right, but the one on the right, I am showing the color inside those gills as being darker. Those alleys are darker, and that's giving me the appearance of looking underneath those structures. Now, let's look more at the cap. This is going to be fun. This is one of my favorite things to do. A lot of mushrooms get busted up, and on none of the ones that I have here on my table do I see this. But very often you're going to see that the edges will start to kind of pull apart and crack as it grows. Rather than, oh, I'm going to leave that out because I want my mushroom to be perfect, put those little imperfections in, and it will make your mushroom look so much more alive. I want to show you how to do this. You see these kind of curved lines on the top? Those are your guides of how the edges of these little cracks are going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here on one of these lines, and I'm going to say we're going to pull back here. And I am going to then swing down wider over there.
The more it is towards the center, the more symmetrical it will be. But these ones on the sides, you have a short side and a longer side. Now, in under these, there's not going to be there won't be kind of gills going out into those. I'm going to draw a little bit of the edge here between these. This is something kind of to avoid. See how symmetrical these are? This one about the same size as this one, same space, same space. I don't really like that. That's, I would say, a sort of an optical goof. So try to avoid that. But I'm going to put a little bit of shadow in here. On this edge of this one here, from here kind of going back along this gill line, I might emphasize that one a little bit more. And over here, pointing towards your middle point. These little cracks add so much life to your little fungi friend. And remember, the edges of the gills point to your X in the middle. Sometimes on this inner surface, you see the edge of the gill bed. So this might be a different color. But those little cracks in the top are going to make your mushrooms, oh, just so much more fun. Same with on the back side. So if there is a crack on the back side here, then one edge is going to be longer than the other. And what are you going to see here in this little V? You're going to see the edge of this mushroom surface coming down to meet it. This, it's these adding these kind of imperfections into the drawing that is really going to make it look alive. And you're going to see those imperfections all over real fungus. Real fungus, they've kind of been through the ringer. And if we try to airbrush them like a supermodel, then it stops looking like something that we'd really find. So take a look at how these cracks, big and small, add to the feeling of this being alive. That bottom amanita there, you can see where you can see a little bit of the edge of the gill bed in that one as well. Now, here's some more. See, that's what you see. And we want to give ourselves permission to draw what you see. For the top surface, that's a really good place to look for a little bit of texture. So if you have on your, as you kind of draw this, rather than, so excuse me, If it is really smooth, like my little friend the slippery jack here, then I want to sort of show that as a smooth edge. If it is got little this edge is a really wonderful place to show um, a little bit of the structure, or a little bit of the surface details. Um, if you have this along the edge, then if you have little kind of bumps sticking out like this, people will know what those do, and they know what those are. So if I've got little guys sticking out, excuse me, I need a glass of water. Um, ones that are in the middle here are going to appear a little bit smaller because they're more foreshortened towards you, but you get some sort of gradation like that, and people say, oh yeah, there's all these little bumps happening here. But if you don't see that on the edge, then people say, what's that? So that edge ends up being really useful in telling the story of the texture of your mushroom.
Just wanted to let you know, Jack, there's about 30 minutes left in class.
Excellent. We are right on track. All right. So look at how these sort of weird marks on the in the face of this, on the one on the right, the minute you see those little curls on the edge, your brain knows exactly what is happening with these. So saying that I have, some little shape that is doing this in the middle of my mushroom could actually be an ambiguous signal to people. But if over on the side you're seeing that, then people say like, oh, look, there's a little thing that's curling up towards me. So these parts of your drawing have a conversation. And you spot the gel pen on the one on the left. Oh, I love that gel pen. Right, so that was all dark, added a little bit of that gel pen in. And oh, here's another kind of fun thing. Let's say you put in some gel pen and it's too heavy, too thick. Just while it's still wet, just go tap, 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 tap with your pen, with your finger. And you pick up a bunch of that gel pen. It'll stay liquid for a little bit while on the page. You do that and then it lightens it. So if you don't smear it like that, if you do that without your finger, it smears. But if you go tap, 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 it keeps its shape and you just pick up some of that. I think these are see this line kind of comes down lighter and gets heavier. That's a tapped gel pen line. Now we're going to come on down the stalk and give ourselves a annulus or skirt. You want to think of these skirts excuse me, as a three-dimensional structure. So if I'm still, if I am looking up into this, I may also be looking up into this structure. If, but also because of the foreshortening of things, if this is where my eye level is, I'll be looking straight at this, but up into there. So you get to, by just look at yours, let's imagine we're still kind of looking up here. This, well, actually, if I was looking at the edge of it, I would draw a straight line across. If I'm looking up at it, then I've got something like this. As I come down this and around here, watch what this edge does. Is it, are there parts that are very often, because it's a thin membrane, it's tattered. And then you'll see your stalk continuing inside that. But you'll wrap this then around the back.
to add extra dimension into it, the parts of the line that are crossing over, I'm going to just strengthen this. Lines that are a little bit stronger tend to come forward visually. So I want this line to be in front of this line. The one on the screen, I'm kind of looking down on. So in this one, your point at your eye line might be somewhere in the middle above that. So just sort of notice whether you're looking down or looking up at that. You would only see one looking up and the other looking down if you're really, really, really close to the mushroom. So probably the one that I'm drawing live here, that's going to be closer to what we're going to regularly see. Big deep breath, everybody. Now, it might seem at this point, I'm saying like there's all these technical things that you have to do to kind of be able to draw this mushroom. And I just want to kind of be able to relax and like this is taking like it's getting to like a kind of strain. Here's what I suggest. This drawing mushrooms is fun. You're not doing it wrong. Having an understanding of some of these geometries helps you be able to see those and get them on your page. I like to have these ideas in the back of my head as sort of the geometric framework for them, because then I'm drawing on top of this, I'm hanging on top of this loose kind of monkey of a mushroom. But I'm understanding how the geometries wrap around it. So you still can be totally loose with your drawings and lively and fun, but you're going to be doing this in a kind of coming to it with a place where you understand the geometry. You can look at the mushroom and see that geometry on it. And you've got some tools to help you get that. I think that that helps us be able to draw what we see, still have it be this lively, fun, happy mushroom, and get some of those weird geometries to work.
We're getting a lot of great comments in the chat, in the Q&A, and just one from Kristen. She said, I think Jack has saved me a lot of truffle in the future with these tips. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Tristan. So that's on the button.
I got you.
Yep, there we go. Now I'm going to show you two other big strategies. And if you are feeling kind of overwhelmed by like my brain is full, stop, breathe. Let's out like 3 deep breaths, everybody. It's going to be okay. These next couple of things are going to be more advanced, but this video is going to be available to you whenever. If it feels like I'm not kind of getting that right now, that's okay. But if you're feeling like, I think I've got this, let's take this just a little bit further, because there's a couple other details, and I think you're going to find this is fun. Here we go. All right. So what I've got here are 2 mushrooms. And you notice one is, on one of them, I've got a little short cap, and the other one I've got a deeper cap. Of course, mushrooms can have all these cap shapes. But what I want to pay particular attention to on these is the point at which the gills may insert. Because in the example that I've been giving so far, the edges are here and it's a flat plane of gills across the bottom of the mushroom. Sometimes that's what you see. Sometimes it's not. So here's the edge of my mushroom. Here's where they attach. Oh, oh, right? So if I look at this one, right, my mushroom gills are going to be attaching up inside that cap. Right? It's not a flat plane all the way across there. On some mushrooms it is. And in the platonic ideal mushroom we've been looking at, that's what we've got going on. But sometimes the gill attachment is up in that, and sometimes it's down in your face. So let's just look at how we kind of change this structure up if that gill attachment place changes. Whoop. So on one of these, we're going to put that gill attachment further down, and on the one on the right, we've put that further up. So imagine that ring being where the gills would attach. If they are coming down as they are, or as we see them on the right, what we've got is our gills wrapping down with whatever curve they have to that point, or climbing up to that point. On the one on the left, we see mostly the close side. On the one on the right, we see mostly or only the far side of the mushroom, because the gills that are on the surface that are pointing down towards us, we don't see. So let's just make a couple quick diagrams of this. So in one, I'm gonna give myself a little cap and a little stalk that comes down. And I'm going to be attaching those along a line here. So that means that my top edge is going to come, or sorry, my close ones are going to come down in here. And then I am going to start to, I'm going to, let's actually put in the edge one here. This one here on the far side, the biggest thing, curve that it's going to do, it's going to come down like that. So between here and there, I need to kind of be able to get over at the start. I am drawing these in darker. As I come over here on the side, I'm giving it a little bit more space. Looking more at the edges of some of those gills. And you don't even have to draw them as whole lines coming down. Let's have, this might be what one mushroom does. Another way that this could work is it comes over and then at the end, it swings down. Right? So that means that somewhere between those, you just give yourself a few little guidelines. Say like, oh, you are going to remember on the ones on the sides here, you don't have to draw in all those gills. But it may very well be that we also do see a little bit of the back side of this mushroom. And those ones are going to be coming up and swinging down, coming over and swinging down. So these ones in here, you may see some of the little gills that are kind of coming over and swinging down. So we're going to go, this one over here would come ooh, up and down. So I may be seeing part of the far side over there. What about this other case? This is actually easier.
And these, you can think of, just imagine a target up here. Towards the top, these will be curving around and bending around and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But the part down here is going to be kind of coming up the walls of this. So if I got a target up there, this little one here, it's going to kind of want to get up towards that target. What about this one over here? It's wanting to go towards that target. What about something over in here? It wants to go towards that target. What about over here on the side? What about over here? I'm going to bring this towards the target in here.
So we have about 17 minutes left, and there are a few questions. Do you want me to ask you questions sort of while you're drawing, or would you like to have a focused question time in a little bit?
Oh, let's do question time in just a little bit,
Perfect.
because there is, so this is one. Remember I said there are two big things I wanted to show you. One, I wanted to show you what you do when your target is up here or when your target is down here, right? With the end of your gills. This is one big idea, but I've got one other new nugget never shared before
Drum
that I want
roll.
to
Drum roll.
drum roll. All right. So what we're going to do is let's first just look at some mushrooms that kind of have this structure. Can you see how these ones are kind of coming down? Notice on the sides there that in here you get a suggestion of these edges, but I'm not having to draw in all these edges. That's the light zone. In here, I'm putting in big shadows, right? I think over here on this one, over here on this, I overdid it. I just got too excited with my gel pen. You can see me going nuts with that. And I'm delineating these a little bit too much out there. I think this would probably be better to have these more suggested in here, more clearly delineated in here. Let's take a look at some others that have sort of a similar strategy, and can see how these ideas come into my drawing. So all these ones have drop down gills. And you see me using those same strategies. And yes, I love me my gel pen. Now, let's get into the final trick of this workshop. And how many minutes do I have?
You have 15 minutes left, assuming you end on time, which is yeah.
Yeah, we know how that goes.
There's another joke.
Yep. All right. So, folks, check this out. Here is a stylized generic cross section of a mushroom. You can see the upper cap structure and tissue going down into the stipe. You can see the gill beds. Now, on this one, notice that my gills droop down, and the attachment for my on the inside is up below the level of the level of of our little mushroom. So if this would be in cross section where the bottom of your mushroom would be, our gills are attaching up in here, right? So kind of going up into that. But there's also this whole kind of droopy edge down here. You're seeing part of the gills drooping down on the bottom. This is fairly common on, but this is, by the way, this is the advanced section. You will see this. How do we draw it?
And what are the implications when we take this and we tilt it and we look at it from an angle below? This is really cool. So if you get down and you look at the slug's eye view, you're now looking up at this angle. So that means that if I kind of stylize these edges, right, to just an inner surface and an outer surface, on the one on the left, over here, I am seeing this surface. But over here, I'm not seeing this whole surface here. And what about over here? I'm missing this surface here. My eyes go right past that. And I am seeing this whole surface here. So in other words, I get to see this. And I get to see this. Now, may the nerding begin. If this was my original template, I'm going to be looking at this from the bottom. In the past, the center of the mushroom was down here, right? We just drew those crosshairs, whoop, place that in. Now, because this one has a indented attachment point, that is going to be up here. Okay. All right. So we're working with this. We can work with this. But wait, there's more. We're going to put in our stock. And there is this droopy ledge of gills that hangs down that is blocking that inner space. Huh. All right. So if I lighten that part that I can't see from here, I have this extra feature now of this droopy edge of gills coming towards me. So you see the green zone, and look at the little diagram on the left. You see the green zone there? That's what you're seeing. And that area below it, ooh, that's what I'm seeing there. So I'm seeing that green zone and I'm seeing the yellow zone. What is happening with the details in each one of these? Well, that one in coming from, remember at the start when we put in those, all our alleys, that's where our alleys are going to be. We're going to see our alleys. Oops, actually, let's start with the bottom part. So the bottom part is doing just what we already discussed, right? But now it's not disappearing under the edge of the mushroom's cap, under the pileus, but under this drooping gill edge. So it's doing just what we saw before. And the front part, the green zone, is doing alleys. So you will get very often this look where you see the droopy gill edge with its alleys. You'll see behind that those gills coming up under it, as you see here. So we look here, we see all these different ideas which we've been looking at. We are seeing, we now have the droopy gill edge. We have the angles, we've got those sort of more well-defined gills in the center. We're even throwing in some little chips out of the cap, going into that droopy gill edge. And they're now starting to really look like the mushrooms we're going to see when we are running around in the field and painting mushrooms. So these are things, you start drawing mushrooms, you're going to see all these things. Don't be afraid of it. Think of these as some geometry tricks to help you understand how these things are going to appear from different angles. You can absolutely do this. The best way to do this is go on a little mushroom foray. Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, tomorrow is the San Francisco, the Mycological Society of San Francisco's annual fungus fair. Wah! And so mycologists from all over the place are bringing thousands of specimens of local mushrooms into one room,
and they'll be all identified there. There'll be lectures, workshops. I'll be teaching a live drawing class. You can come there. You can draw your mushrooms if you're a local. If you're not, there's probably a mycological society near you. Look them up online, find them, right? And then there are often local fungus fairs. You can also go out with local mycological societies and do these foraging forays. And you're there with the experts. It's so helpful to learn from experts. There are some mushrooms that are edible, for instance, that look very close to ones that are not edible, poisonous ones. You want to learn those things. I don't feel comfortable learning that from just a book. I want to be there with the experts who can say, like, no, 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 no. Look right here. You see that? That's what you got to pay attention to. These mycological societies are also great meeting aggregation points for super geeky nature nerds. And that's really my tribe. I love hanging out with these sorts of people. It's so much fun. The more you draw these things, the better and better they're going to get. And the nice thing about mushrooms is they're going to stick around for you. They can hide, but they can't run. And so you can sit down right next to them and take the time to just explore their geometry. They're absolutely beautiful. So many structures, so many colors. But you've now got some frameworks to kind of know what to look for, and you can do this. And I want to encourage all of you to just get some reps in drawing some fungus near you. If you can't find any in the field, go to the grocery store, get some edible mushrooms from a store, cut those up, dissect them, draw them from a bunch of different angles, and then make spaghetti. And it'll be a lot of fun. Do we have time for any questions, or am I up against my line?
We do have some time for questions. Are you ready for some questions?
I am. Who finished on time? Who finished on time?
Well, you did. You're not really finished yet, but you did.
Oh.
You actually stopped. You stopped teaching in time for questions before the end of the class, which is really high five for you, for sure. Do you have any hints on mushrooms that are concave rather than convex?
You mean on
Yeah.
the top?
Yeah, we had a couple people talk about that.
Yes, yes. Okay, let's go to the thrill cam here.
Thrill cam. How about a new piece of paper? Yeah.
There we are. So you're saying that what do you do if the mushroom's got a shape like this? Right? So on this, there's a tipping point in drawing this as I tip it. And here you can see all of this inside surface, right? But I get it to some point, and now we see this close edge. There's part that we don't see, and then we see part of the far edge. And those are two very, very different phenomena. So drawing this is very different than drawing this. Because here, I get a clear line along this edge. Here, I don't have that. So if I'm drawing it this way, that is more informative about the structure, but it can be more confusing visually. Right? So let's take a look at how I would handle those two cases. I'm going to kind of keep this. So on one where I am let's say I've got here um, I'm tilting this so that I see that edge. I draw this in as a line, and I don't draw that line all the way to the corners. I leave a gap there and there because you notice it's easy to see that edge here in the middle, but what's going on with it over here? I'm not going to draw that line all the way to the edge. Right? Hard to see what that line is doing over here. Easy to see what it's doing there. Right? So I'm going to leave that part ambiguous.
And shadows are really going to help me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some kind of a neat little trick with shadows on mushrooms is that if light is coming across and it is hitting this the stipe down here, this will cast a shadow over its own stipe if there's enough light getting in towards the bottom of it. But as that shadow hits it, it will make a curved line across that stipe. All right, so we're kind of coming in here. This is the part that will be in shadow. Here is some part in shadow. And because the light is coming from here, this, I'm gonna put a little hint of a shadow in here on this surface right there. This side is getting the light directly. This side is getting this indirect oblique light. There might be a little bit of a shadow in there. So that shadow will help us. This line helps us see like, whoop, we're going into the pit. If there are any striations or things on the surface, so for instance, if there are markings on the surface, then I can also think of those as going around in rings here that are partly obscured from my view. So if there were little markings in here, they would curve around like that, and maybe another layer of if there are any striations that go into it, those are absolute Illustrator gold. So like any kind of little kind of dark marking that can kind of go down into that pit following this kind of the angles that you would follow if you were going down to the bottom of a cone. But if it's tilted at an angle where you don't see the lip, that's more challenging because your brain wants to flatten that all out. So if you're doing that, cracks can help. This one here, this crack is making a little arrow that is pointing down. Now I'm drawing that really hard, which pulls it into the foreground, but I'm just doing that to emphasize that. You do always want the front edge of whatever you're looking at to be um, uh, that you want the front edge to be a stronger line than the one in the back. But I can still put in that little shadow over on this side of the cup. And this whole part here might be in shadow. Assuming top left lighting is always a good idea in illustrations. Um, the and so I'm going to put any shadow on this side of this divot. This it kind of gets into the art of drawing kind of bumps and divots. But if light is coming this way, And I have a bump, light coming this way, light coming this way. And here I have a divot. I'm going to have the shadow on the side closest to the light on the divot. This is a divot. On a bump, the shadow is on the side furthest from the light. So I'm going to use that to help suggest that. That would be one way to kind of play with that idea.
That's great. We had several questions, and I know we don't want to give advice about which mushrooms are poisonous and which ones are not, but some folks were just wondering if it's safe to harvest mushrooms.
But like by holding this, am I in danger?
Yes.
Good question. No, I'm not. I don't want to eat this.
You want to wash your hands after you've been touching it.
Yeah, I wash my hands. But I'd also wash my hands after taking apart an owl pellet, even though it's not poop. I would wash my hands, just like wash your hands on a regular basis. It's a good idea. But I'm not going to be and I'm not going to be licking my fingers while I'm doing that. But there's nothing that's going to be absorbed, um, and and warts. They won't give me warts. It is safe to touch them. It is safe to collect them.
Okay, great. And then,
However, in national parks or places where there are restrictions on these things, draw there, but don't harvest. We always want to be, as nature journalers, we want to be really kind of our great ambassadors for how we should handle ourselves in the wilderness. So if the local place has some restrictions on that, know your local ordinances and don't collect in those areas.
great. Thank you so much. It is a little bit after 12, so I'm thinking that uh, we should probably wrap it up. We should cap it off. And we had some really nice comments from folks saying they're really liking your teaching style. Darian said that. Linda said that I'm so glad I had shroom in my schedule to take this class today. I'm loving it so much.
Oh,
Earlier, when you were encouraging us to laugh and make sure we have humor in our lives, Judd said this is important, especially in these truffling times. Ileana was giving you some love when you were having struggles with your technology and said that we all have mushroom to grow in our use of technology.
that's right.
So thank
Absolutely.
you, Ileana. And then someone else said there's no accidents, just happy little mistakes. Mistakes.
Oh.
And then we had someone else say, why did the mushroom get stuck in traffic on the way to class?
Oh, 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 oh.
You could use
Uh,
this tomorrow when you teach.
yeah, you have to tell me.
It was mush hour.
It was mush hour.
Yep. Yep.
You know, stayed a little bit too long in bed that day because I wasn't feeling well. Got a little bit green around the gills.
Well, thank you so much for this class, Jack. It has been very inspirational, and we really appreciate all of the new techniques that you squeezed in. And we want to just remind folks that if you did join us today live, we'll be emailing you a recording it to the class in about a week. And if you would like to make a donation to support the class, you can do that at wildwonder.org/donate. And we'll pop that in the chat as well. We'll be sending you a survey. We'd love to know what classes you'd like Jack to teach in the future. So look out for that. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again, Jack, for your wonderful class.
Thank you for being here. Thank all of you all out there. 267, even at this end of tail of our show. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for being here. I hope that this inspires you. You get to get out there and just have, I mean, it is such a beautiful, 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 interesting, crazy, curious world. And fungi are just weird. And so just go geek out with them. Get your geek on and have fun with them. This world is too astounding not to be curious in.
Amen to that. And thank you again to Brooke for your help backstage. This was quite a busy Q&A. Lots of really engaged folks, and we really appreciate everyone's puns. It helps keep us all laughing. So thank you so much for all of the good humor and joy in class today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you again, Jack, for donating your time for teaching this class.
Can we just see your hat one more time?
I'm not at my desk with the with my
Oh,
camera, so
all right.
sorry about that. Sorry about that.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Here's a little Amanita muscaria that I found underneath a pine tree in a local park. And as I look at the underside of it, it's got this veil all the way around attached to the edges of the cap. And you can see it just starting to pull away right there. And so I want to make a little diagram of this. I think it's really fun to see this just at the state where this this veil is pulling away, which will make the little skirt on the side of the fungus here. So I'm going to make a sketch or two of this. I want to show what the structure is, and then what I also notice when I get in there and do a cross section. I'm going to cut this in half. So I've got down here a little cup that it's going to sit in, my stalk going up. I'm just roughly blocking in the sizes of different regions. As I do this, I'm kind of looking at the negative shape that I see around me. And I've got the bottom of the cap here. If you're looking at something in front of you like this, it's a really useful strategy to regularly close one eye as you're looking at it. And what that does is helps kind of cut out, as I switch back and forth between my two eyes, from this distance, I am seeing it from two different angles. When you just look through one eye, you're just seeing one angle, and that makes things easier to draw. So I'm going to start with the part that is closest to me. I have this cup that it sits in. Going straight in here with a pen after first making the my little light blue pencil drawing. I feel confident that my proportions are right because I was closing one eye. And this part here, rather than a hard line across it, I'm making some little flicks up. The trick of closing one eye really helps. Now, this is this interesting part in here where right in here, this is starting to peel away from the edge. These little white flecks that are up here on the top of the cap, those are interesting little phenomenon. They are pieces of the universal veil, the little sheath that once wrapped around the entire mushroom, as it was a little baby mushroom, little mushroom potential underneath the ground. And as the cap recedes, as the cap grows, these recede to just little bumps, called warts. They don't cause warts. I can see some gills in this space here. Let's see, which way are they going? They are going in this direction here. And this needs a little bit of color. Because I'm using toned paper, I'm going to use a little bit of gouache here. Little gouache tabs are wanting to jump out. Gouache and watercolor together. Let's see, there's a little bit of orangey yellow. You can get some yellow, get some orangey. Orangey yellow. Mix a little bit of this pink in with it. Maybe a little more yellow. And that I'll spread around here. Gouache works very well with watercolor, so if I want to kind of get this to be a darker red, just reach over, grab a little bit of red watercolor off my palette. Didn't even clean my brush. And I'm coming over, mixing that with the gouache. Gouache helps it be opaque. And add a little more yellow to that. Something that I really like about painting with gouache is to blend these together. I just take a damp brush and I stroke over it a few times and everything just blends together. The stuff that's below just reactivates and blends smoothly with the new stuff that I'm adding. Very, very convenient. This part gets a little bit of white paint. I'm going to leave a little bit off on the side to be a hint of a shadow. A little bit of brown into my white, which gives me a cream. Bring that cream down into here. And lastly, a little bit more brown down here. remove some gouache from here, just to make that area a little bit more shadowed. And lastly, we'll put some dirt on it. So I've got a few little flecks of dirt on here. I'm going to just jitter my brush. All right, now with this angle of this drawing, it's kind of difficult to tell. It's difficult to tell what is the structure, the shape of this. So what I'm going to do is a cross section, and I'm going to cut this thing along this axis here. So I like to draw a little line on either side of where I'm going to cut. And I'm going to call this cross section. Here's A, here's A prime. And so then I'm going to get a knife and cut this along that line. That's right here. And there we have it. Oh yeah. Right. There. Yeah, you can see this. Here's this little veil right below the gills there. What a cool structure. So I am going to lightly block this in. The shape of the stem that comes down, stalk. The shape of the gills. The shape of the gills here. And the cap is coming around in the background. Where's that membrane? Oh, you can see that little membrane stretching right there. Oh, what a neat structure. My gills. Neat on the side of the stock. I think I'm seeing what I think is these little universal veil remnants. a little hollow space here. Interesting, I was looking at another Amanita earlier, and it showed that same kind of little hollow space. Look at that. So this side was working for me. This side over here, I drew it sticking out instead of tucked in. So this whole space here, this is why we map things out with our non-photo blue pencil at the start. So I could either just work this side here and just leave a little note that I made a mistake over there, or I could try to fix it. I think I will try to fix this, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I'm working on toned paper, so whiteout or something like that does not work. But I've got a color of gray here in this palette that is very, very, very similar. It's the gouache palette. Very, very similar to the color of the gray journal. And when I put this on, first it'll look like I totally got it. As this dries, it'll darken slightly, and so that won't really show up. But and also sometimes when it dries, it gets a little more transparent. I can cover that up with some gouache, let that dry. I'll work on another part of the drawing while that dries, then get back over there and fix that. It's interesting. So when my brain is focused on details, what is the shape of the gills, I'm not seeing where that section is in relationship to everything else. So it's neat to see how my brain misses information like that. And what do I want it to do? I want it to come down this. There'll be a little triangle here. My gills will be in this area, and then we will come in there like that. Is that working? The gills are in here. No. I want it even closer. Now this far edge. It's such a different shape than I drew. And I was all the way out there. And it's fun to see how what your brain misses, and then to sort of backtrack, like why did I not see that as I was blocking in my basic shape? Sometimes you can't fix it on that one drawing. Sometimes you can. But even when you can't, let's notice it, and so the next time I'm drawing, I'm less likely to do that. Now, I've got some gouache down on this part of the page, so I have to be really fast with this white that comes over the top, because otherwise the gouache reactivates and starts to kind of come up and make a mess. Gouache paint, when it gets wet, wants to move around again. The edge of this is yellow, then with a deeper red right along the outer edge. So I am going to just review some terms for myself. The more that I write these things down, that's just reinforcing these ideas in my head. This little inner veil here is the cortina. And so there it is again, the cortina. Cortina covering the gills. These are gills in X section. Gills visible through tear at edge of cortina. So I'm going to make a little note here that this cortina is what will become the annulus. The little skirt, the little ring on the edge of the mushroom will become the annulus. It's really fun. It's really, really fun to see something in the process of growing and developing. Things like this. So I'm going to pull this out. When you see a mushroom that is developed further, I make sure this is on camera. As this mushroom develops further, what's going to be happening is that this cortina is going to it separates from the edge of the cap, the edge of the pileus, and it then hangs down. Oh, don't tear off on my finger! Don't tear off my finger. There it is. So it hangs down as this little skirt that is around the bottom part of, there we go. There it is. It's like a little skirt that drapes down over part of the stalk. And on another mushroom, you can see this is now started to dry up here. This is its veil. Its it's also called again the annulus, or the ring. But that started off as this thin membrane that connected all the way around the base of the cap. That is what we see. I'm going to add a little more darkness into these little side pieces here. Here. You can try it yourself. Take a mushroom that you find and see what you discover by making a sketch of it. See what you then discover by what do you discover when you make a cross section of it? How do these parts relate to each other? It's beautiful. It's a beautiful structure. And always remember, don't eat mushrooms you don't know. And if you do know them, double check that. You don't want to make a mistake with that. But don't be afraid of fungus. Don't be afraid. They're not out there to get you. We do want to respect them. Sometimes identification can be tricky. This is a pretty obvious one. And it's one I know we don't want to eat. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.